The process of decolonization of Mauritius remains incomplete as a result of the unlawful detachment of an integral part of our territory on the eve of our independence.
The United Kingdom has agreed to return the Chagos Archipelago to Mauritius after 60 years of colonial control.
A few moments ago, I signed a deal to secure the joint UK-US base on Diego Garcia. This is absolutely vital for our defence and intelligence, and therefore for the safety and security of the British people.
The deal, signed on 22nd of May 2025, ends the British overseas territorial dispute but leaves lingering questions about justice for displaced Chagossians.
At no time were the Mauritian people, either as a whole or through their representatives, given any opportunity to retain the Chagos Archipelago. Some 1,500 men, women and children, many of whom had ancestors originating and living in those islands for generations, were removed.
Located at 5,799 miles southeast of the UK and about 1,250 miles northeast of Mauritius, the Chagos Archipelago sits at the heart of the Indian Ocean. Comprises around 58 small, very low-lying islands. Diego Garcia, the largest island of the Chagos Archipelago, hosts a strategic US-UK military base critical for intelligence and counter-terrorism operations. The joint UK-US military base on Diego Garcia provides a shared platform with security capabilities that enable the military presence of both the nations across the Middle East, Indo-Pacific and Africa. Diego Garcia's strategic location allows it to support a wide array of operational activities in a number of theaters, helping to combat some of the most challenging threats, including terrorism and hostile states. Diego Garcia is also central to current UK and US emergency planning and operations. During the Afghanistan and Iraq wars, Diego Garcia was used to launch airstrikes, refuel bombers, and coordinate military operations. The base is a crucial logistics hub at a strategic location with a full range of facilities that acts as a key refueling and resupply station for naval and air operations. It also helps protect some of the most important shipping lanes in the world. The UK also maintains a nuclear emergency response organization to permit nuclear-powered submarines to safely berth at the port at Diego Garcia. The US also uses the island for humanitarian aid and disaster relief missions across the Indo-Pacific. The military base also has a network to constantly monitor for indicators of nuclear testing, vital in preventing nuclear proliferation. It hosts monitoring stations and ground antennas that provide situational awareness of objects in Earth's orbit, helping to track space debris that pose a risk to space systems. While it's clear that Diego Garcia is a linchpin for UK and US military strategy in the Indian Ocean, the island's sovereignty has long been contested. So what exactly is the dispute over Chagos Islands, and what do the new agreements entail? All this and more in this video. The Chagos Archipelago, initially under French control until 1814, was ceded to Britain through the Treaty of Paris and was administered as part of Mauritius. However, in the 1960s, as decolonization surged, the UK and US secretly negotiated to detach Chagos for military purposes. During 1964-65 talks, both the nations agreed that UK would create a new colony, which will be called the British Indian Ocean Territory, to secure Diego Garcia for a military base. Both the nations agreed that UK should be responsible for acquiring land, resettling the population, and providing compensation at the UK government's expense, and that the government of the United States would be responsible for construction and maintenance costs. A 1965 UK Foreign Office briefing paper for then UK Prime Minister Harold Wilson outlined coercive tactics to pressure Mauritian Premier stating that he should be afraid that he might not get independence if he does not agree to let the Chagos Archipelago be separated. If I were to quote the exact wording, the briefing paper read, "The object is to frighten him with hope that he might get independence, fright lest he might not unless he is sensible about the detachment of the Chagos Archipelago." 2 years before the independence of Mauritius, in 1968, the UK split Chagos Islands from Mauritius via an order in council in November 1965. Under the Lancaster House Agreement, the UK offered £3 million in compensation to the Mauritius government over and above direct compensation to landowners and the cost of resettling others affected in the Chagos Islands. The detachment of the archipelago from Mauritius was condemned by UN Resolution 2066 on 16th of December 1965. The agreement has since been questioned. Mauritius claims that it was signed under duress. In its advisory opinion delivered on 25th of February 2019, the International Court of Justice concluded that the process of decolonization of Mauritius was not lawfully completed when the country acceded to independence, and that the UK is under an obligation to bring to an end its administration of the Chagos Archipelago as rapidly as possible. Over the decades, the UK has faced numerous legal challenges to its sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago. Litigation has come both from the government of Mauritius, which has consistently contested British control since the 1980s, and also from Chagossians seeking the right to return to their homeland. UK's legal view is that the country would not have a realistic prospect of successfully defending its legal position on sovereignty in such litigation. UK says that the legal effect would have impacted operation of the base and its access to the base by air and by sea.
But I want to underline the urgency and uncertainty over the future control of this UK base. Within weeks, we faced new legal rulings which would weaken the UK's full operational sovereignty over this base. And within just a few years, this irreplaceable military and intelligence base would become inoperable. That's why we've taken action today.
So in late 2022, the previous Conservative government began negotiations over control of the territory, but it did not reach an agreement by the time it lost power in the 2024 general elections.
We inherited a negotiation in which the principle of giving up UK sovereignty had already been conceded by the previous Tory government.
The current UK government, led by Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the Labour Party, on 22nd of May 2025 signed a landmark agreement with Mauritius. The agreement provides Mauritius full sovereignty of the Chagos Archipelago, with the UK retaining control of Diego Garcia Air Base under 99-year lease.
So there's no alternative but to act in Britain's national interest. By agreeing to this deal now on our terms, we're securing strong protections, including from malign influence, that will allow the base to operate well into the next century, helping to keep us safe for generations to come.
The UK will pay Mauritius $136 million annually to keep the control of the base.
Now, there's obviously a cost to maintaining such a valuable asset. We pay for other military bases. Allies like the US and France do the same. This cost is part and parcel of using Britain's global reach to keep us safe at home. And it will be less than the cost of running one aircraft carrier for a year. Today's agreement is the only way to maintain the base in the long term. There is no alternative.
The deal sets a 24-mile buffer zone around Diego Garcia where nothing can be built without UK consent. Foreign military and civilian forces will also be barred from other islands in the archipelago, with the UK retaining a power to veto any access to the islands. There is also an option to extend the lease by 40 years more if both the nations agree. The treaty will come into effect only after it is approved by both the UK and Mauritian parliaments. Present-day Chagossians are predominantly descendants of laborers who were brought onto the then uninhabited islands to work on the plantations. The rights of the Chagossians have been at the heart of a decades-long struggle following their forced expulsion from the Chagos Archipelago between 1968 and 1973. Chagossians were systematically barred from returning home, with those temporarily visiting Mauritius and Seychelles for medical and personal reasons stranded and unable to return as early as 1968. By 1973, the last of the Chagossians were deported, leaving them in poverty and exile.
On a nos parents qui sont enterrés dans les cimetières à Perros-Banos, à Diego Garcia, à Salomon. Comment pourrons-nous accepter de ne pouvoir pas cette occasion de déposer une fleur, de rendre hommage à nos parents? C'est vraiment... Et pourtant, le gouvernement britannique dit qu'il faut promouvoir la culture.
L'administrateur, il fait appel nous devant le bureau et il fait nous savoir s'il peut fermer, tout le monde besoin aller. Nous pouvons besoin quitter la terre Perros pour nous aller nous retourner Maurice. Mais là, nous... En pressant, nous avons nos coffres, longtemps nous mettons dans le coffre, linge et qu'un matelas. Et ben, nous avons fait la cuisine, nous ne sommes pas capables de nous quitter. Et là, nous embarquons, nous venons.
British government has consistently blocked the Chagossians' attempts to return to the islands, citing various reasons including the potential financial burden on UK taxpayers, claims of Chagos Islands being a maritime protected area, defense and security reasons also. And so only heritage visits were allowed to the Chagossians. Legal battles for the Chagossians' right to return began soon after their expulsion. In 1973, 280 Chagossians petitioned for the distribution of compensation promised by the British government, but the funds were not released until 1977. Over the years, Chagossians have repeatedly taken their case to British courts. In 2000, the UK High Court ruled in their favour, recognising the illegality of their expulsion and upholding their right to return. But this victory was short-lived. In 2004, the British government issued orders in council that permanently barred their return, effectively overturning the court's decision. Further legal challenges, including appeals in 2006 and 2008, were ultimately unsuccessful, with the House of Lords upholding the exile. The case was then taken to the European Court of Human Rights in 2012, but the court dismissed their claims on technical grounds, marking another setback for the Chagossians. Despite these defeats, the plight of the Chagossians remains a powerful symbol of colonial injustice. Many still live in poverty and face discrimination in their host countries, while their demands for meaningful compensation, recognition, and the right to return to their homeland continue to be denied.
On aime les histoires. Souvent, on demande à papa de raconter. Parfois, les petits-enfants se mettent à rire. Tellement de souvenirs, c'est beau et triste en même temps.
Even international bodies like the UN and the International Court of Justice have criticized the UK's action. As part of the 2025 deal, Mauritius will be able to resettle Chagossians expelled from the archipelago by Britain in the 1960s to all of its over 50 islands, apart from Diego Garcia. India has consistently supported Mauritius's legitimate claim over the Chagos Archipelago in keeping with its principled position on decolonization, respect for sovereignty, and the territorial integrity of nations. As a steadfast and long-standing partner of Mauritius, India remains committed to working closely with Mauritius and other like-minded countries to strengthen maritime security and regional stability, and also to ensure peace and prosperity in the Indian Ocean region. However, critics warn that Mauritius's deepening ties with China could jeopardize regional security.
If we did not agree this deal, the legal situation would mean that we would not be able to prevent China or any other nation setting up their own bases on the outer islands or carrying out joint exercises near our base.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer claims that Beijing had opposed the Chagos Islands Deal, but as per the reports, Beijing's ambassador to Mauritius, after the deal, told the guests at the Chinese embassy that her government offered massive congratulations on the deal and that China fully supports Mauritius's attempt to safeguard national sovereignty. She also confirmed that Mauritius would soon join Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, an initiative that has drawn sharp criticism for its expansionist ambitions. Some even call BRI as a tool for neo-colonialism and debt trap diplomacy, where Beijing offers large infrastructure loans to economically vulnerable nations only to seize strategic assets or exert political leverage when those countries struggle to repay their debts. While the treaty provides for resettlement programs, it stops short of guaranteeing the right of return to Diego Garcia itself, and many Chagossians fear their voices and aspirations are still being sidelined. With the new deal now put in place, the question that remains unanswered is this: will the Chagossians displaced for over half a century finally see justice and a meaningful restoration of their rights in the land they once called home?